I stood by the glistening waters of the lake, with fish of different colors swimming, creating a colorful pattern. I smiled pathetically at their beauty, hating my own life, my own me. Chapter 17. Deal to fight. Sarah's P.O.V. I stood there dumbfounded. Did she just say that? This redhead is Will's mate. I don't know what to think about it. Should I feel happy or sad? I mean, this is the same girl who was disgusted by me, and now she is sucking faces with who I like. Not the gross way, but she's his mate, not mine. I have no right to judge at this situation. I smiled because I'm happy Will found his mate. Turning to Kyle, he had a faint frown on his face. I could almost hear what was going inside his mind. Will found his mate. She will keep him happy. I said to Kyle, who looked down at me. I know. But will she be enough good to be in our pack? I don't want someone like Shay in my pack. He told me. I'm happy for Will and I know he will be happy too. But in thinking about my mate, who will I get? Don't worry. You will have a nice mate. I smiled at him. He lowered his gaze to ground, his frown disappearing. He then looked into my eyes with so much intensity. I couldn't look away. I hope I get someone like you, he said with sincerity. My mouth parted while I thought what I was going to say, but nothing came out of my mouth. Those words were more shocking. The look he was giving me had me fixed at my place. He kept on staring into my eyes and then they lowered to my lips. It was then I realized how close we were standing. I could feel his breath on my face as he started leaning in. I could have closed my eyes if I wanted it, if I was so confused. But I knew I didn't want this. I knew I cowed and led him on. I knew there was someone waiting for him. I don't want his mate to save same fate as mine. It was a moment I felt vulnerable in. All memories came flooding back to me. Daniel was in love with Shay while I was his mate. It hurt me so much when he refused to believe me. It hurt so much when he replaced me with her. I don't want to be another Shay. Not for Kyle. Not for anyone. I am not Shay. I turned my head away and my eyes fell on Daniel. He was staring at me with an unreadable emotion in his eyes. I could have peeked inside his mind to find out what he was thinking, but I didn't want to. I was so full of my own thoughts that I didn't want to hear his. My gaze lowered to floor as images of Dave came into my mind. There's only one person I love most. I will do anything for him. And Daniel, I will do anything for him too. For his life. But that will be more because he's my mate and not because I want to. It will be because I'm obliged to. I blinked my eyes several times to clear my head. Kyle's breath hit side of my head and I knew he was staring at me. He was thinking, trying to figure me out. But I can't let him. Finally lifting my gaze from floor to his eyes, I smiled faintly. It came as a sad smile. There's your mate waiting for you, Kyle. You will find her one day, and make her happy when you do. Don't ever replace her for anyone because she will be the most special person in your life. I told him softly. He kept staring at me for a few seconds and then a smile grazed on his lips. I will, he said, and I grinned at him, which he matched with one of his own. Involuntarily, my eyes returned to Daniel. He was no longer looking at us, but I knew he heard every word I said from his powerful werewolf hearing. Regret was clear on his face. I'm hungry. Let's get something to eat. I cheerfully threw my arms in front of me, trying to crack the tension in air. He chuckled and nodded. We exited from Shu's corner. My stomach started to rumble, which made Kyle laugh. Once we were sitting on our chairs, devouring pizza, we got company. Hey Kyle, I wanted to ask you, how are the training going on? Daniel asked, taking a seat at my side while Shay very elegantly sat on. Kyle said, Will and Redhead must be busy with their own business. They are improving every day. Doing great, Cole said in his calm voice. It was no longer the playful tone he used with me. He sounded like a hot businessman with golden skin and brown eyes which changed color. A faint blush crept on my face, remembering something I shouldn't. Shay swooned at Kyle's side, hearing his sexy voice. Cole smirked at me. I immediately narrowed my eyes at him. Daniel turned into statue at my side. I could feel heat radiating from his body. You're from this pack's era, right? Kyle asked me. I didn't know how to answer that. I still smell like this Paxo I settled with. Well, sort of. Then why don't you come for training? He asked, leaning forward. I don't have my wolf. I shrugged as if it was nothing. But really, loss of my wolf still pains me. He was surprised to hear that but didn't ask any further questions. I appreciated his ignorance. You don't have to be werewolf. We do training in human form also. I don't need training. I was careless while saying this. I really didn't need a training. But he didn't believe me. It was clearly written on his face. I don't blame him though. No one would. After all, I'm a girl with 120 pounds weight who lost her wolf. I'm not strong in their eyes. Daniel and Kyle were staring at me with disapproving looks. I just rolled my eyes. Fine. I will come. Just for once. I made my point clear with those words, but he didn't seem to be impressed by that. You need training, Sarah. It's for your own safety. Daniel told me with concern in his voice. I wanted to scoff but restrained myself. It was genuine concern, but I was not exactly fazed by it. The images of him kissing Shay were smeared in my brain. And now he sounds concerned. I know how to keep myself safe. I have known since past 12 months. I challenged him. Confusion spread on his face. He was thinking how I survived last year. How hard would it have been for me without any mate or without anyone to protect me. Well, buddy, I've learnt to protect myself. I have an offer. Kyle interjected and I raised my eyebrows at him. He seemed concerned about my safety too. I mentally groaned. You will fight with me tomorrow. If I win, you will train every day, and if I lose, you can do whatever you want. Well, that sounds interesting. Are you crazy? You are one of the strongest alphas. She has no chance, Shay said in disbelief. Too concerned about me or about me, spending time with rogues outside. They don't see if you stand a chance against them or not. They take you as their enemy and attack without thinking anything. Kyle's words made Shay shut her mouth while I just raised my eyebrows at him. He was a fighter. Fine then. I nodded, resuming chewing on my pizza. I think we should do inspection tomorrow. What do you think, Daniel? We must see how training going is on. Shay batted her eyes at Daniel, who smiled at her. Yeah, we should go there tomorrow. He nodded, looking at me sideways. They don't want to see training. Shay wants to see me get beaten up by Kyle, and Daniel wants to make sure Kyle doesn't kill me. Seriously, who does he think he is? He was responsible for my almost death on my previous birthday. Now he is concerned about me. Let's give them a show tomorrow. Chapter 18, Deal of Mate. Daniel's P.O.V. My hand rested on Shay's waist as we watched the fight in front of us. Cole said that he would train other wolves for an hour in wolf form before his fight with Sierra. Shay is overly excited about that, and I know the reason. I have a feeling that she knows Sierra is my mate, and now she is acting like a possessive mate. No matter how much Sierra says she is my mate, Shay is my mate too. I have marked her and we share a bond. As long as my mark rests on her neck, she is my mate. Her presence makes me happy, but now my body craves for Sierra. I need her more than Shay. It's just an infatuation. Previous mating bond urging me to be with her. I can find a happy life with Shay if I want to. Last night was one of the best nights of my life. There was something different about Shay. She was more understanding, gentler than she ever was. It made me feel elated. Since last week, she is acting like a caring mate. I think something is wrong. My wolf argued, but I ignored him. Same feelings I had from months ago were swirling inside me. I was feeling rejuvenated. But my wolf was a little wary. Sierra was leaning against a tree carelessly, watching trainees with interest. She had a small smile on her face which grew whenever her eyes fell on a specific wolf that I recognized as Trent. Trent was one of my best friends in high school, but my contact with him decreased since past few months. There was only Dave among my previous friends I remained acquainted with. Rest of them were mostly forgotten. My memories went back to my birthday last year when Sierra said I was her mate. Trent had made fun of her. Trent has a bad anger. He glared at Sierra, who had a smirk on her face which made her eyes shine. Even after distance between us, I could see her pretty clearly. She was wearing tight leather jeans and a jacket, making her look like a bad girl who rides bikes. Most of the wolves were looking at her like she was a piece of meat. Mostly those who didn't have their mates. It made me angry, but I calmed down my nerves. I turned to Shay and kissed her, relieving my anger and frustration. Why do I feel these things for Syrah? I don't want to feel them. If she accepts my rejection, things can be easier for both of us. I know she feels something for me too. The mating bond can't be that weak. She isn't even mated to anyone else like I am, so she must crave me more. I saw it yesterday when she said those words to Kyle. I feel bad for what happened to her, but what's done is done. She just can't be Luna of this pack. Suddenly an idea struck my mind. This is the right thing to do. I have to ask her to accept my rejection as soon as possible. My feelings are growing for her with every day that passes. It has to be stopped, and I know what exactly to be done. Shay, I will be right back. I murmured to her ear and pecked her lightly. Where are you going? She asked me. A little talk with Syrah. She is not going to win Kyle. I have to make sure she does what she is asked to. I replied as she nodded her head with a smile and leaned in to kiss me again. Sarah's P. I smirked as Trent this wolf collapsed on ground, panting from exhaustion. He is not my favorite person after what she said to me on Danielle's birthday. I can't let it pass easily. Nothing about that day can be forgotten so easily. I had asked Kyle to go difficult on Trent when I saw him today for the first time. Guess he is no longer Alpha Spet. Kyle agreed without any question because according to him, Trent was a cocky bastard. I cowed into Greenall. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard the familiar voice that almost made my heart stop. I was too concentrated on Trent that I didn't notice someone sneaking behind me. I think that's the reason. I can't feel anything for him. Never ever. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I grinned at him. My mind was tempting me to know what he was thinking, but I restrained my urges. Let him do the talk. I've stopped trying to read his thoughts now. I want to talk to you, he said in his alpha tone, which might have had an effect on me if I still had my wolf. Then talk. My eyes fell on Shay, who was staring at us curiously. I frowned and looked back at him. He said through clenched teeth. Fine. I followed him to a secluded place. I have a deal to make. He stopped to observe my reaction. Wow, another deal. What does he have for me now? I waved my head, asking him to continue, my eyes slightly wavering from his. If you lose from Kyle today, you will accept my rejection and you will leave this pack. You will be given a house few territories away from here in human population since you have lost your wolf. Your bank account will be updated timely. I wanted to rip his throat with my bare hands but controlled myself. Anger building inside me. All I wanted was to torture him for making my life miserable. I was not expecting him to express his undying love for me, but I was also not expecting him to be so cruel. I wanted to scream to Moon Goddess why. Of all the wolves, he was my mate. What had I ever done wrong to anyone that my fate had to tie me with him? My anger and hatred for him only grew to an extent that I wanted to destroy him completely. But that was not the right thing to do. Okay, I said coldly. He looked surprised but nodded anyway. Fine then. He started walking away. Wait. I stopped him. He turned around frowning. If I win this fight. My voice was deadly cold as I spoke. You will tell everyone I am your mate. I was planning to do this right now, but anger had blinded my senses. All I saw was red. All I imagined were different ways to kill him. I watched him carefully as he nodded slowly. Deal. I walked past him, slightly shoving his shoulder. His eyes were on my butt, but he lifted them before his thoughts could wander farther away. He knew I was not going to win, but I knew I was. Chapter 19 Strange Alpha Kyle's P. OV. I was tired from training those pups. They had improved over last week. These wolves had the thing in them. All they needed was a little boost. Last week they were acting like spoilt brats, but now they have shown great improvement. In presence of their alpha, they were giving their best. This pack could have been the strongest pack if Daniel had paid more attention. Trent, the brown cocky wolf, finally came to his senses. The way he was glaring at Sierra made me a little more cautious about him. He had a mate. She was nice wolf training with others while he was acting like he knew everything. Once I dismissed all wolves to get an hour break, Daniel interrupted me. Not an hour. Give them 2 hour break. He ordered me. I was stronger alpha than him. But I knew behind those words he had an intention, but I decided against prying his personal life. He was here today mostly to watch the fight between I and Sierra. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Her name makes me relax. There is no doubt, I am infatuated by her. I feel protective towards her. She is different from all other werewolves. When I came to know she had lost her wolf, I was shocked. When she told me that I should wait for my mate, I could hear desperation in her voice. There was something she was hiding. A lot of pain. I wanted to take that pain away from her. I wanted to make her happy. But I knew she won't allow it. She is a girl who knows how to take care of herself. She is strong. And there is something going on between her and Daniel that is a matter of curiosity for me. My theory is that Sierra and Daniel were lovers, but then he found out that Shay was his mate. No werewolf can ever resist his mate, especially when he's alpha. So he broke all ties with Sierra, due to which she went into depression. Now has she lost her wolf? Maybe her mate found out that she was already involved with another wolf and rejected her, due to which she lost her wolf. I don't think anyone would lose their wolf due to rejection. It must take a mate to die, or silver, or absence of mate during first transformation. I want to know what happened to her, but I don't believe she's going to tell me anytime soon. She doesn't trust me enough. I have to gain her trust and find out the truth. Kyle, I have to tell you something. Daniel said to me. I was confused why he gave 2 hours for rest to those wolves, and now he has to tell me something. I nodded and hid. Take proper rest for an hour. I don't want you tired when you fight Sierra, he told me. I frowned at him. He sounded like Sierra. She also asked me to be fully prepared for our fight. But there's no way she can defeat me or put even a scratch on me. Except for bed. That's even if she agrees to. I shook those thoughts away. Why just take rest, Kyle? You need it, he said before leaving. I was not very much tired. Just a little, but I took rest anyway. I will just go easy on Sierra when we fight. Will has been busy with his mate since last day. He seemed really happy on finding his mate finally. I hope she brings him back to his senses. Whatever damage occurred to his brain during fights, I hope she will fix it. I can only hope. The way she was acting with Sierra yesterday made me angry. I don't want her to be like Shay. I want her to be like Sierra. Just like I want my mate to be. But Sierra said that I have to wait for my mate. I don't know if I will ever find her. I closed my eyes, drifting into a dreamless sleep. I was woken up by some horrible sounds. When I opened my eyes, Daniel had his mate pinned against the wall. I shut my eyes, groaning mentally, but their sound continued to bother me. It's over more than an hour. I'm starting to think you are backing off. A voice said over my head, and I turned to side to find Sierra staring at me with an unreadable expression on her face. I never back off, I said, jumping from the bed and pinned her against the wall against door. It was kind of gross that an alpha and Luna were making out against wall of my room, but I let it slip away this one time. It was like an alarm which I would like to throw against the wall next time I try to wake me up. She didn't show any change in emotion at my sudden action. It was like she was expecting me to do this. Her face was hard as she gazed at me. Something was off. Was it the fact that her supposed lover was sucking his mate's face? We will see. Let me go now. Her tone was getting calmer. I narrowed my eyes at her. I don't want to, I said, pressing my chest against hers. She squirmed, trying to push me or find a way of escape. How will you fight me if you can't even push me away? I murmured against her ear. I don't want to hurt your family jewels before our fight. She threatened, which made me retreat. I will need an iron shield for that, I mumbled. She let out a chuckle. Kyle, I want to talk to you before fight. I heard Daniel. So the make-out session finally ended. I nodded at him and Shay, who winked at me. I don't want my mate to be like this. But what a reaction a werewolf without mate will give to such a tease when he is alpha. I smirked at her, expecting Daniel to growl at me, but he never did. Instead, his eyes were on Sierra, who looked at him so coldly that Sahara could freeze. Day by day, my theories are getting stronger. They definitely had some kind of history. Sierra and Shay walked out of the door. "Keep your iron shield intact," Sierra shouted over her shoulder. "You won't dare until you don't want our kids to run around our house," I said in order to tease her, but Daniel growled. I looked at him suspiciously. After a few seconds of silence, Daniel spoke. "I want you to win this fight," he said seriously. I was a little surprised. "You will give your best in this. She will lose no matter what." "Why do you want her to lose so badly?" I asked, frowning. It didn't make any sense. He wanted to see her beaten up. Was it for reassurance of his mate? Maybe Shay was insecure about Sierra. She might think Daniel will be unfaithful to her. But Shay needs more lesson on infidelity. I want her to train. She's a stubborn girl. She needs training because there are stronger wolves outside. She won't train until she is made to. It's for her own good. He told me, but I sensed there was something more. Okay. I nodded my head and he left with a satisfied expression. Chapter 20: The Fight. Daniel's POV. This hour was an important hour of my life. A part of me wanted Sierra in my life and other part denied her. I don't know which part was telling me to do something right. All I knew was what I was doing felt so wrong, but the consequences may be right. "Are you ready?" Dawn, a wolf from Blue Moon Pack, asked. Sierra and Kyle smirked at each other, both of them ready for a victory. But it was clearly visible who was going to win. Sierra was no match for Kyle, a wolf who had trained for years, while Sierra can hardly know how to punch. Grey clouds loomed over the sky. It was most likely to rain any time soon. Wind was blowing, carrying dust with it. Leaves twirled in a graceful dance. Kyle and Sierra nodded. Each of them waited for other to pounce. Both were on high alert. Spectators included me. Shay, to my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nogan. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Dawn and Ethan. Kyle and Sierra moved in circles. It was hard to say who was following who. Even from fair distance I could see Kyle's stiffness and flexibility with his movements. He was very cautious of his every step, even though he shortened P. Sierra was more careless. For her it was a child's play. Sierra is finally going to out of our life. You don't want one that. My wolf growled at me. I want her to leave, but you don't. I retorted, and he growled at me. Our minds are same. You want her. Don't deny it. I cut off my wolf, concentrating on the fight. Just then Sierra lunged at Kyle, but he picked a movement and moved aside to dodge, but she is faster than that. Before anyone knew what was happening, Sierra slammed at Kyle's side, who lost balance on his feet and landed on his back. Instead of jumping on him as expected, she stood over Kyle with a smug look on her face as he winced. Her lips moved as she whispered something to him, which I cowled and he even after my werewolf hearing. She was most definitely taunting him. It made Kyle smirk and he was back on his feet faster than light and tangled his foot with one of Sarah's legs, who lost her balance and was on ground. Kyle didn't waste any time and jumped on her, but Sierra had already rolled under him and he straddled nothing but dusty ground. I was startled at next movement as Sierra lifted her leg and arc of her foot collided with back of Kyle's head and he face planted on hard surface. Sierra stood on her feet, her eyes fixed on Kyle, and she cocked her head to side. Kyle lifted his head off floor and glared at her. His nose was bleeding slightly and his lower lip was busted. Sierra said something to her again. The smug look on her face never left as he came back to his feet. Thunder roared as soft raindrops started pouring down. Shay dragged me with her under a tree where we were saved from wetness of water, but neither of the fighters stopped. I could see anger in his eyes as he lifted his hand to punch her on face, but she moved her head to side, successfully dodging it. Just as she moved, his other fist flew to her stomach, which she blocked by her hand. Cole caught hold of her other hand immediately and spun her around. He pressed her hand to her back with his one hand while wrapping his arm around her waist to retrain her from moving. Something twitched inside me and my wolf growled. I shook my head and grabbed Chia's arm and leaned in to kiss her, but she backed away. Just watch Daniel. She scolded me and I had to agree. Sierra gritted her teeth. That made my insides twitch. I wanted to go there and kill Kyle, but I restrained myself. He pressed her hand harder to her back and she winced. Her face scrunched up in pain. Her knees buckled and she bent a little only to bring her head back to slam to his face. Kyle loosened his hold and retreated on his steps, holding his cheek where a bruise was forming, but it would be immediately healed. Relief washed through me as Kyle and Sierra were back in their starting positions, circling one another. This time Sierra jumped on Kyle again and he moved from her path again, but this time she was unable to knock him down. Sierra did a tornado kick, but Kyle backflipped to avoid it. From where Sierra learned these moves, Kyle lifted his leg and it struck Sierra on her shin. He fell on her knee, clutching her shin. Kyle stood over her and said something, but he seemingly cut off as a look of surprise washed over his face when Sierra's hand pulled one of his legs. Kyle fell on his butt. His hand immediately shot out to grab Sierra's leg, mimicking her move. But the fact that Sierra was already on ground helped a little. Her legs were open on both sides on ground. Sierra and Kyle were chest to chest with each other. Sierra sprung into action and moved her leg in semi-scroll while her hand pushed Kyle's chest. It didn't land him on his back but distracted him enough for Sierra to get back on her knees. Kyle tackled her before she could stand and covered her body with his legs capturing her legs. His torso aligned against hers, his face merely centimeters away from her. Jealousy burned inside me, but I pushed the feeling away. This is for the best. Raindrops fell angrily on hard surface of ground. It was like havens were not happy when Sierra was in vulnerable position. And every time this happened, Sierra always went back to her action with more force than before. Kyle's hands were supporting his weight on her body, which left Sarah's hand free, and she pushed on his side, making him scream in agony, and he lifted himself off her, clutching his side. Sierra went on his feet again, and both circled each other for the third time. It's a game for who pins who. Kyle doesn't want to hurt Sierra, that's why he was pinning her to ground instead of causing actual damage. A part of me appreciated it while other part was disappointed at him. After agonizing 20 seconds, Kyle jumped on Sierra, taking her by surprise, and pinned her to ground, holding her hands above her head, which again made me angry. She writhed under him trying to get free, but his grip on her was tight. Their faces were a few inches apart as he said something to her. She bit her lip and my eyes instantly went to her lips. She parted her mouth, breathing softly, and I watched mesmerized as it was the most beautiful sight in whole universe. And it was indeed. Sierra might have kicked Kyle because he winced and his grip on her wrists weakened. She took the opportunity and rolled over. Her long legs straddled his waist. Her knees his wrists to ground while her hands went to his throat, cutting off his air supply. My wolf howled in joy, but I suppressed it. She can't win. Sierra can't win. Her victory will mean my loss, and I don't want to lose. I grabbed Sierra's arm and pulled her to me. This should help. I side-glanced at Sierra, who still was sitting on Kyle. I called her with everything in my mind while looking at Sierra's lips. In my peripheral vision I sensed Sarah's head snap in my direction, and I slammed my lips against Sierra's. This might distract her. I kissed Shay hungrily and pulled away after a few seconds to find Sierra standing over Kyle. My eyes widened in shock as she fell on her knees. I was to yell in happiness when I noticed Kyle. His eyes were closed. Sierra said something to Dawn, but I cowled and hear her. Dawn rushed to Kyle's side. Sierra left right after that and disappeared into the woods. Ethan also ran to Kyle. Shay moved from my side to see Kyle, and I followed her. Deadly silence followed as Ethan checked Kyle's pulse. Ethan looked at me, then Kyle, before returning his gaze back to me. He is unconscious. Sierra Winters won this fight, he said, and my heart thumped inside my chest. I didn't know if I was angry or happy. She will remain here, but now I have to tell she is my mate. Sarah's P. Oh, Faye, I thought I was stronger than that. He did that to make me jealous. I was more angry than jealous. How can he be so cruel to me? Just to ensure my defeat, he not only asked Kyle to be hard on me, but pulled that stunt when Kyle appeared to lose. He wants me out of his life so badly. It irritates me, angers me. I wanted him to realize his mistake. I wanted him to regret refusing me. But now he is getting on my nerves to a point that it's becoming unbearable for me not to kill him. I stood at the glistening water of lake. Fishes of different colors swam, creating a colorful pattern. I smiled at their beauty, pathetically hating my own life, my own mate. My phone rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. Anger cooled down enough to help me face Daniel again without splattering his head against the wall. Hello. I picked up without catching the corporate. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Where are you? Dave's frantic voice asked me. In the woods. Is everything all right? I asked, frowning a bit. He didn't sound like he was in a good mood or anything like that now. Don't stay in with Sierra. It's not safe. Rogues are lurking in our grounds and with a traitor. Situation is much more dangerous. In returning, he ordered and I muttered a bye. After talking to Dave, my anger lowered to a point that I could laugh without splattering Daniel's head against a wall. And I hope she is too. I walked, enjoying my surroundings. Large truck of mighty trees stood straight. Soil was mixed with brown and green leaves. They made faint sounds as I walked over them in a normal speed which could be easily called as running by any other normal person. I used to play in their woods with Dave when we were younger. He had made a couple of friends back then. I don't remember them, but they were nice. They were humans. When our werewolf abilities heightened with age, our interaction with human friends decreased. Harry and Grayson were cousins who we knew from kindergarten. That place was both for humans and werewolves. I sort of liked Grayson because he was really cute. He was my hero because he saved my doll from drowning. I even gave him my first romantic kiss on cheek. Now my face burns in embarrassment when I think about it, and hope I never come face to face with Grayson ever again in my life. Harry was an annoying boy who used to tease me. He used to pull my hairs or draw awful drawings of me. Grayson was always there to protect me from Harry. Another reason to call Grayson my hero, and another reason to blush in embarrassment, and another reason to wish I never meet Grayson ever again. Too bad both were humans. I really wished Grayson was my mate. As we grew, Grayson and Harry moved out of the country, leaving me with Dave. Dave had started to be friends with other wolves. He was more outgoing than me. He made extrovert friends while I settled with Manny, who was just like me. Those times were amazing. And present time, I can't call it exactly the best of my life, but there is light at the end of tunnel. I hope things will get well soon. I stopped and took a deep breath. My anger finally completely controlled. I've lost my anger like this for the first time in past few months. I can't let this happen again. This mating bond is messing with my emotions. I shouldn't feel these things, but I do. Suddenly my senses heightened as I smelled change in air. It was a familiar scent which I was not glad to smell. Rogues I followed where the scent took me. Muffled voices came from a few feet away, and I hid behind the tree to hear what they were saying. Coming. We have to attack before that. There are no change of plans. Someone said. The voice was not clear. But you were talking about a fight. Another voice came. Alpha was in the training session today. He has started taking active participation in pack stuff. He was there with Luna though. Should we capture Luna? No, not yet. Though I have thought about something. We will talk about this later on. I have to return. Be careful. There were muffled voices before there was silence. I sneaked a peek and there was no one. Dang it. I was this close. I could have found the traitor. Chapter 21. Suspicioned Nelsp. Ovi. I paced back and forth in my room, my brain completely jumbled up. Just tell everyone. It's for the best. My wolf argues. No, it's not for the best. It's for the worst. How? If I admit that Sierra was my mate, then everyone will hate me. My pack will hate me. It's not like you don't deserve that. Just shut up. I don't want this now. Already I'm not a powerful enough alpha for them. If they hear about this, that will cause havoc. But if you don't get with your mate soon, I will cause havoc. And I am inside your brain. What will you do about it? I cut it off and sat at the corner of my bed with head in my hands. I rubbed my face and ran my hand through my hairs. Dad will not like it. He will most definitely kill me if I tell him about this. Dave already knows. He has been more hostile to me ever since Sierra returned. She must have told him. If everyone is going to react like this, I better stay quiet. I am not ready to face it. And it will not happen. I won't let it. I have to do something. I can't go with the deal. But I also fear Sierra will reveal everything. Not like anyone will believe it. It will be same as it was a year ago. No one will believe that she's my mate. She can't say that. But Dad will definitely believe it. He seems to know everything. He had asked if Shay was really my mate in past. There was no doubt he was suspicious of our relationship. If Sierra tells him the truth, it will be the biggest problem for me. There are rogue attacks in your territory. A voice spoke and I snapped my head to find Sierra leaning against the doorframe. Her face completely neutral, devoid of all emotions. I didn't know what she was thinking. What are you doing here? I asked her, standing up. The room was mostly dark except for the moonlight coming from the large window. Her face shone under the whiteness of moon. Her green was sparkling remarkably. Long dark hairs looked midnight black as they reflected moonlight. She looked absolutely breathtaking, especially wearing that pure white top and dark blue skin tight jean. If you were done checking me out, she said dryly, I would like to remind. I wanna now it's time for you to spring in action and announce your little secret. She walked inside the room, standing the window, her eyes watching me like a hawk. She was looking so beautiful that I couldn't take my eyes off her. Her skin seemed so milky. It almost appeared illuminant. Her hairs were so silky. My fingers were itching to caress them. Take a photograph. It lasted longer. She smirked at me. I shook my head. Give me time. I told her. I can't just muse out of nowhere. I need you to say something like that. I will give you time. The first person you will tell about me will be your dad, and he is returning back into months. My face lit up at her words. I was here just to tell you. Don't try to jump up and down like an overexcited kid. I'm going to see Kyle, she said, marching back to the door. Why? I asked, frowning. There was no need to. She paused and stared at me, confused. What? Why are you visiting Kyle? For your kind of information, Alpha. I beat him up in the fight. He was unconscious and I've not seen him since then. So in Lena. Wait. I shouted before I could stop myself. She frowned at me. What? I'm coming with you. To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She raised an eyebrow, studying me with her cold eyes. Without nodding or giving any sign, she turned around and walked out of the room. I followed her. She moved with grace. Her hips swayed ever so lightly with every moment. She was wearing blue and white sneakers and moved like an active teenager. Her eyes remained fixed forward. Wavy hairs bounced against her shoulders as she moved. She is beautiful, my wolf said to me. I cut it off instantly. I purposely extended my hand so that it brushed with hers as she walked. A simple contact was made that sent a jolt of electricity throughout my body. It was something I never felt with Shay. Sierra stopped too. Her eyes landed on me with coldness of Antarctica. She didn't show it on her face, but I could see anger smoldering in her eyes. For a second I thought she was either going to kiss me sensually or attack me, but then she turned away, ignoring me. Her pace increased as she tried to increase distance between us. I didn't try to touch her after that, but my body was yearning for her, to feel her silky soft skin against mine. Her long legs moved with perfect sync. There was no clumsiness in her movements. It was as if she was totally aware of her surroundings. I know you can't resist me, but stop staring. It's getting creepy, I heard her say. She stopped when the wooden door of Kyle's room was standing in front of us. She knocked at the door thrice. A muffled coming came from other side. She opened the door and stepped inside. I followed her. Kyle was sitting on his bed with back leaning against headboard, and arms were folded in front of his chest. His eyes were closed as we entered. How did you do that? Was his question we were welcomed with. I was taken aback, wondering what he meant by that. Well, hello to you, to Kyle. I'm fine. Thanks for asking, Sierra said sarcastically, carelessly sitting at the foot of bed in front of him. He opened his eyes and narrowed them on her. His face was completely fine. All injuries from fight were already healed. You defeated me. He held out an accusing finger towards her. I leaned against the wall watching their conversation. Yeah, I noticed that too. Sierra replied, sarcastically. She is feisty. My wolf said, and I cowered into green more. How on? Carl stopped mid-sentence and looked at me. His eyes fell on me for the first time since I entered this room. Why did you ask me to defeat her at every cost when you knew she was going to win? She is so amazing with her fighting skills. My eyes went wide as he mentioned. I was waiting for Sierra to yell at me or accuse me, but that never came. Instead, she was observing Kyle with amusement. There were no signs of surprise or anguish on her face. She was calm as night. Don't underestimate the power of a girl, even if she lost her wolf due to some dire circumstances. She smirked and then stretched her arms in front of her. She sent a wink in his direction and he blinked. You were so damn fast with your movements. Where did you learn this from? He asked in awe. I was taught martial arts by an old man. I've been practicing from last year. She admitted. My eyebrows shot up in interest. She never told me about that. She knew she was going to win. She had been freaking doing martial arts. I should have known. This is not fair. I feel betrayed in my own game. Carl groaned and rubbed his hands on his face. If you fought with me in your werewolf form, you could probably have beaten me in it, she said, folding her arms. If she was wearing something like Shay, I'm sure I would have seen something I might like. But she's so conservative about herself. It's like she is not confident about her body when she should be. What am I thinking? Stop it now. So I'm not going to join you in those training sessions. You were an amazing fighter, Kyle. That was really good. Sorry for making you unconscious, though. That was never in the plan. She scratched back of her neck and she smiled sheepishly. He nodded slowly, studying her closely. I should go now. You talk with Alpha, she said, and walked out of the room, throwing goodnight Kyle over her shoulder. Silence settled between us and I searched for something to say. He lost and I lost. It made me angry at him, but it was not his fault considering he didn't know about her martial arts. Neither did I. If she defeated her, she was really good in that. Defeating a powerful alpha is not every owner's cup of tea. Why were you here with Sierra? He asked before I could open my mouth. I stared at him blankly for a few seconds. He cocked his head to side, demanding answer. I awkwardly cleared my throat. I came here to see you, I told him in a cool tone. Why with Sierra though? Why not before or after her? He asked, raising his eyebrows. Suddenly I felt like I was being questioned for a murder. She asked me to come with her. I don't know why. I shrugged casually, obvious of my complete lie. He stared at me hardly for a few seconds and then nodded. His scrutinizing gaze was unnerving. I should go now, I said, and hurriedly walked out of the room, shutting the door behind me. I let out a sigh of relief. When I came outside, a plan was already devising in my head. I have to make Sierra hate me so much that she leaves before Dad returns. And I have to work on that as soon as possible. Sarah's P.O.V. Daniel must be howling with joy. He doesn't know it's a game I am going to win. I will be the one to have last laugh in all this. And I vow will make him cry. He tough good for nothing alpha will cry. Let's not forget his fake mate. I've a very big suspicion about her. I'm missing something in this whole mess. I hope to point it before it's too late. My phone rang. I received a phone call from person I least expected. My heartbeat picked at his voice. I looked around to make sure I was alone and away from anyone's earshot. Are you doing what you were asked to do? He asked in a calm voice. I cursed mentally. There are 3 tasks in hand for me, but he knows about only one. I can't let him know that though, and I can't complete his task until I complete mine first. He did definitely if I ask me to come back and if I'd his orders. I'm dead, yes. I'm trying to find them, I said, dishonestly squeezing my eyes shut. I hope he doesn't find out about my lie. He is not the kindest person in the world. Well, do your work properly. Remember, you are not there for vacation. He reminded me and I nodded, but then mumbled a yes because he hadn't seen me. They'll call you in a weekend by that time. You better find something you'd like to hear, or you won't be able to say a word ever. Her threatened menacingly. I will. And without any other word, he hung up. I let out a sigh of relief. Vladimir is a person you won't ever like to mess with. He is brutal and cruel. He emits negative energy. I shuddered at the thought. She is the most awful creature to ever walk on earth. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Are you okay? You look like you have seen a ghost. Manny asked me with concern lacing her voice. Fine, I said without stuttering. Something I was thankful of. So, what brings you here today? She asked, walking to me. Can't I visit my old friend? I asked, narrowing my eyes at her, while she rolled hers. I smelled something different in the air. It was so strong and so new. My eyes roamed around to find any trace of werewolf, any traitor, but there was no one. Of course you can. Dave is so busy these days. He is really bothered by traitor in the pack. She mumbled in a sad tone. Oh, don't feel so down, my dear friend. Let's go inside. I said, her wary of smell. Something was wrong about this. I'd really be better if we are inside. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. But that smell didn't leave. Feeling of paranoia was distracting me from whatever conversation Manny was trying to make. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What happened? You are acting like Dave now. She pouted at me, folding her arms over her chest. Nothing, Manny. It's just I trailed off. Didn't she smell anything? Manny, didn't you smell something different? Like there is someone, other than us in this room? I asked in a low voice, looking around. Instead of panic I was expecting from her, she gave me silence. When I looked at her red cheeks, I knew it had something to do with her. My nerves went cold. She knows. She knows something is wrong. Is she the traitor? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I asked, my eyes wide. She didn't look at my eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. There is something I want to tell you. Chapter 22. Harsh words, Sarah's P. V. I ran to Danielle's house knowing Dave would be there. I have to tell him about this as soon as possible. It's something he should have figured out, though. He's so stupid. When I was inside, I spotted Shay and Daniel sitting on couch. She was sitting on his lap. Thank God they were not making out. Their attention snapped to me when they heard my footsteps. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What are you doing here? Shay asked me. Daniel frowned. Have you seen my brother? My breath coming short. I ran from our house to here, and that's a lot. I'm seriously exhausted. Shay raised her eyebrows. Is everything okay? Daniel asked with concern in his voice. I almost scoffed. He has to tell everyone that I'm his mate, and now he is sitting with Shay. They are so close to each other. But I don't have time to think about that. Dave. I have to see Dave now. Where's Dave? Training. He asked, but I didn't bother to answer him. Instead, I ran out of the front door towards the training session. The place smelled of soil and sweat. I spotted several wolves busy with their training, jumping. But it was not more different than children in playground. Kyle was barking orders. Don was helping him while we were still out of sight. He is definitely on honeymoon with red head. Then my eyes fell on a similar dark-haired boy. Dave, I shouted at him. He was talking with a ginger boy. When he heard me, he said something to ginger boy, and then headed to my direction. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What are you doing here? He asked me with a frown. I have to tell you something important. I told him. He raised his eyebrows. When was the last time you saw Manny? I asked, crossing my arms, waiting for his answer. Why? Just answer my question, I said a little harshly. He was taken aback by my tone, but answered anyway. 2 days ago, he mumbled. I stared at him for a few seconds. You moron, I shouted at him. He immediately covered his ears with palm of his hands. "Why are you shouting? Are you planning to make me deaf?" He yelled at me after recovering from ringing of his ears. I wanted to go for his ear but decided against it and grabbed his collar, dragging him with me. "What are you doing, Sarah?" Dave shouted at me, but I ignored him. I walked towards his car and driveway. Shay and Daniel were also there. Daniel was opening the door of passenger seat for her. I slammed Dave against the car and searched his pockets. He wriggled, but I managed to fish out car keys. I could feel Daniel and Shay staring at us. They were definitely thinking I was crazy. Yet inside, I ordered Dave. "Why?" he asked. I opened the door and pushed him in back seat. His groan was suppressed by slam of car door. He groaned again. Boys in their cars. I even saw Daniel wincing at my action. In taking him with me for now. "I don't know when he will be back, but I assure you he will be alive," I told Daniel loudly before getting into the car and driving like a madman. Or madwoman. "What are you doing, Sarah?" Dave asked me again. I glared at him through rearview mirror. "Shut up, Dave. I'm very disappointed at you right now," I told him, shaking my head. "What happened?" he asked, confused. "You will see," I said, my final statement. He asked me several questions, but I didn't utter a word. When I pulled that driveway, Dave got out of the car. "Why are we here?" he asked, but he was already walking inside. "So he missed Manny. Well, he is up for a surprise." Dave went inside and I stood at my place for a few seconds, not wanting to witness any extra display of affection. About 5 minutes later, I went inside. Dave was spinning Manny in circles with a large grin on his face. Manny was laughing and asking Dave to put her down. I smiled at them. "I can't believe I'm going to be a father." Dave sounded so excited. I was so happy for him. Manny was sad. She thought Dave didn't want a child. But I know my brother. He is not like that. But he was so busy with pack stuff that he didn't know his mate was pregnant. That was sort of disappointing for me. But I can't blame him. Alpha is not willing to do his duties. Dave has to do everything. Seeing them happy makes me happy. "I will see you soon," I shouted over my shoulder. Well, someone is happy, and I want them to be happy. I will do anything for Dave's happiness. And for now, I have to find out who this traitor is. Though I have a rough idea who that could be. My phone started ringing and I picked it up to an unknown number. "Hello?" I asked, unsure as I walked through the familiar road. I don't get tired easily, so I can walk to pack house where I'm staying at the moment. "Hey, Sarah." "I'm Daniel." I heard voice from other side. What does he want now? Can't he digest my good mood? "Hi, what's up?" I asked, not letting him spoil my pleasant day. "I'm going to be in a garden to be out now. A nephew or a niece is coming. A cute little kid. I wanted to tell you something. It's important. Can you meet me?" I didn't think much before agreeing. He gave me address. When I reached the CF, Daniel had asked me to. I was not surprised to find Daniel and Shay. I very well knew what his intentions were and rolled my eyes. Seriously? He is going to make me hate him by trying to be extra cozy with Daniel. He doesn't need to do that. I already hate him. But if he wants to play this game, I can take part too. But in the end I will be the winner and he will regret ever messing with me. "Alpha?" I greeted, taking a seat. "What happened to Dave?" Daniel asked, putting his arm around Shia's shoulder. His hand rubbed her arm. "You need to ask him that. But it's not bad." I shrugged, leaning back on chair. "What you wanted to talk about?" I asked, frowning at him. "There is something I wanted to tell you," Daniel said in a low, deep voice which piqued up my interest. I leaned forward, raising my eyebrows. "That's what you said in phone. Can you tell me what you want to actually talk about?" I said in a sweet tone, but message was clear. Either speak up or I'm going to leave because I'm not too patient when it comes to you. "Well, there is this thing. You know Shay is not my mate," Daniel said in same tone. "Yeah, I am." That came out bluntly, as if it didn't matter to me. I told her that. He informed me. Shay was looking at me with cold eyes. That's when I came to know what Daniel had told her about it recently. But she already knew that. I said dryly. "What?" He seemed surprised. I don't know what you think, Daniel, but for those who are near to you, it is not difficult to figure this out. She might already have suspicions in the way you had been reacting. Like checking me out, staring at me when you think I'm not looking, smiling more when my presence doesn't help at all. His eyes almost bulged at my words. He didn't know he did that. Neither did I. But I peeped in Dave's brain at what he thought about this matter. The words he used for Daniel were really colourful. Shay glared at me. She scooted closer to Daniel, as if I was going to steal him away. I rolled my eyes at her action. You know, real mate bond is stronger than fake mate bond. I asked her, and she continued to glare me harder. Stay away from him, Sarah. She growled at me. I wish I could also do that. It sounds kind of cool. It's not like I'm throwing myself on him. In fact, you should put a leash on him instead. I'm not the one to stare at him like a pained lover. I despise him. He is just a horny wolf who just uses you to relieve his frustration. She was about to lunge at me from across the table, but Daniel held her back. She is just trying to provoke you. Don't listen to her, Daniel said to her gently while his eyes were still on me, glaring. I didn't call you here for this, Sarah, he said in a deadly voice. Oh no, you are here to make me hate you. Well, newsflash, Daniel Wayne Osborne. I hate you. You don't need to try anything. I'm not here for any of your childish games. You are alpha with responsibilities and not a carefree teenager. Instead of trying to get me out of this pack, you should see what is going inside this pack. You don't dare to. Shut the heck up, Alpha. It's enough. You know why I always call you Alpha. It's not because I respect you or something. I'm no longer in this pack and I'm your mate. I don't have any restrictions. I call you Alpha because I want you to Alpha who has responsibilities. There are rogue attacks in your territory. You know what that means. They can take over your pack. You can shift into your wolf and it's strong for any other wolf but weak for an Alpha. Why do you care about this pack so much? No, you care about me so much. Don't you say that you hate me. I don't care about only you. I care about this pack because I was once a part of it. And on the top of all, I paused, glancing at Shay, who was watching at our argument with mild interest. It's not good to show my emotions in front of her. I looked back at Daniel Day's eyes. You will regret what you did to me. I smirked at him and stood up. Daniel. I had to show that I have lost all hopes of him being good Alpha, and now I want only him as my mate and not an Alpha. I walked away from a shocked Daniel and a satisfied Shay. She wanted this. But now I'm not going to give her what she wants. Chapter 23, Sleep Spee. Ovi. Daniel was in office room wasting his time because being the irresponsible Alpha he is. He doesn't do duties. He was there to enjoy his success on making me jealous, which was only in his mind. I didn't get jealous. All I did was walk away when he and Shay were making out on the couch because it was so disgusting. Who would like to watch a couple making out? I am not sick that way. So being a good girl, I am. I left them to their business. My memories roamed back to the fight with Kyle. I was so hurt that day. I felt jealous of Daniel being with Shay because he had just asked me, his real mate, to leave him. It was hurtful, but now I care the least. Yeah, it is sort of annoying to see them both together, but I have to be here. I will get Daniel, just to cause him pain. Hey Daniel. I greeted with a smile as I entered the office room, standing directly in front of his chair. He looked up at me with a frown which was then changed to smug look. What are you doing here, Sarah? He asked with a smirk. Did Dave talk to you? I asked, cocking my head to side. He pushed himself off chair and towered over me. Why are boys so tall? It irritates me. He told me that Manny was pregnant. He answered casually and watched me closely. You know, I can never get Shay pregnant if you are here. Why do I have that effect on you? Can't get Shay to bed. I asked, raising my eyebrows. I won't let her get pregnant because you are here. It always wants you. He told me with a serious tone. I smirked at him and leaned forward. My breath and his face that made his eyes close. I knew what he was waiting for, but I was not going to give him that. My face went past his cheeks and I blew in his ear. I smirked in victory. Why resist your wolf then? I whispered. I raised my right hand and placed my index finger on his arm, sliding it down slowly. I could hear his heartbeat. His mind was jumbled up as if he was high, and I bit his earlobe. I wanted to make it painful but appeared to be pleasurable to him as he groaned my name. He looked in pain when I pulled away and stood at a distance of about 5 meters from him. He opened his eyes slowly. They were glazed over. I knew he was having mental conversation with his horny wolf. What will she say about that? I asked smugly. He came back to his senses and seemed ready to kill me. Daniel was glaring at me. His eyes were dark. He was angry, very angry. And what did I exactly do? Just seduce him and then left him hot and bothered. There is one virtue of mating bond. It heightens your needs for mate, and therein a virtue of dislike too. You can resist that person even after the mating bond calls you back. It's my wolf. He growled at me. Don't take advantage of my wolf like this. If you had accepted my rejection, then things would have been easier. It's your fault. Come on, Daniel. I thought you'd like it since you were alone while your fake mate is with someone else. I shrugged casually. He glared at me. What do you mean? Clueless alpha. I feel sorry for you, I said in a taunting voice. You will feel that hurt every day, Daniel. Your fake mate thinks the game is in her hands, but she's wrong. I have upper hand here. I have control over you, and you can't even deny that. I turned away and left him fuming. When I mentioned about Shay, his memory went to her and her mate, Kane. I was actually startled to hear that she had met her mate, and then offered Daniel to keep Kane as her dirty little secret. It was so sickening but kind of expected from Shay. Kyle told me that Shay had tried to seduce him. She was not being loyal to Daniel, but something was going on inside her mind. It was then I realized that she was trying to take revenge on Daniel because he let Kane go. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Being a selfish being, she wanted Kane without giving up anything. She didn't accept his rejection because she was confident he'd come back to her. Around Daniel, she acts like a loving mate. Especially now and around Kyle. She is a seductress. She is pulling off something, and it includes hurting Daniel and me. If I'm hurt, Daniel will be hurt too. He tries to deny it, but he feels that pain. He's just a moron. He thinks he is doing everything right, but he's not. And I hate him for being such an airhead. My phone rang, sending chills to my spine. The probability of saying raspy, deadly voice from other end made my heart thump painful inside my chest. Fear of getting into trouble clutched me. I didn't know what to tell Vladimir. He was not supposed to call me this soon. When I looked at the screen, it showed an unfamiliar number, but it didn't relax my muscles. I robotically placed the metal object to my ear. Instead of hearing a cold voice, I heard a girl talking. Where are you, Sarah? Manny asked. I rolled my eyes. She almost gave me a heart attack. Pack house. I answered, smoothly walking alone. Are you planning on getting Daniel back? She asked, and I frowned. Why would I want that? Because he is your mate. And no matter how hard you try, you always want your mate. Mating bond is unavoidable. It will call you back and you will walk in the direction it wants you even though you don't want to. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. But then you will realize that it's the best thing ever. She told me, I don't want it, Manny. All I want is to separate Shay and Daniel because she is no good either for Pack or him. What will happen to him then? He can find another mate. I hope a better one. Someone I approve of. What if he wants you? He doesn't want me. He is hell-bound to get me out of this pack as soon as possible. It's just not him. It's about you, Tessira. You are able to resist this mating bond now because you are human, but how long? You will soon feel need to be with him. You will want him. You will get jealous of him with Shay. It will hurt you to see them together. Why don't you fight to get him? Why not show him that you are much better than Shay? Your actions and your harsh words make him feel that you are not better than that wench. I chuckled at her tone. Manny, I am not going to show him what I'm not. He deserves what he's getting. Are you sure? I said with finality. I want you to think about it again, Sarah. If you fall in love with him during this time and continue getting on his nerves, he will start hating you. And at that time you will regret it. I won't regret anything, Manny. I will not fall for him. That's for sure, I said with confidence. I don't want him to hate him and he will not hate me. Mating bond won't allow that. As long as it exists. What are you planning to do, Sierra? Are you going to reject him? She asked frantically. No, I paused and then sighed. I'm not going to reject him. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. That's great. Think about what I've told you. I will. Thank you, Manny. You are an amazing friend. One and only. She sounded so smug. It made me chuckle. Bye-bye, I hung up. I will not reject him. All I have to do is accept his rejection, but I'm not going to do that either. My body was aching slightly and I felt exhausted. I went to my room and jumped on bed, welcoming sleep. I still crave sleep sometimes. Right now is one of those moments. I don't know why I feel like it. Whole stress of work is tiring me. I don't want to receive another call like yesterday. I just want to sleep. Hey, Sierra. Wake up. I heard a voice say. I groaned as my head hurt a little, sickening. I needed more sleep. I didn't sleep properly. I don't know why, but I was still a bit restless. Kyle. Leave me alone. I groaned. No, I don't want to. He was really annoying. Fine. Then come here, I said, lifting the covers. He remained silent. If my eyes were opened, I could have seen a frown on his face. What? Come here, but you lost the fight. Now do what I say. Come here and be my teddy bear. Well, that rhymes. I chuckled in pillow and then felt the bed shift. It sunk as Kyle got inside. He pulled me to his chest with his arm around my waist. I hope Daniel sees us like this. What Daniel is to you? Kyle asked out of blue. I was startled by his sudden interest in the topic. He's alpha of the pack I belong to. I stated, coolly contemplating if I should tell him the truth, but finally decided not to. Okay, he said without pushing in further. His voice was more murmurs by that point. He was falling asleep too. It was then I felt darkness taking over me and I drifted off in a comfortable sleep. The place was dark as night even though it was day. It was like a fortress. A dark antique room with unlit candles standing aft a few meters distance. It was a room with only darkness blanketing it, yet the figures could see everything clearly as if they were watching it in clear daylight. You have to find the air, said a dark, brooding voice. It was deep and dangerous. It roused desire and fear simultaneously. There was something different. Something so mysterious about his voice that attracting the female standing there like opposite pole of magnet. And how am I supposed to do that? She asked in a steady yet soft voice. She gazed at him, unblinking life, a few seconds drinking in his features. He was the most handsome creature to ever exist on earth. The more she looks at him, the more enchanting his visage becomes. His green eyes were fixed at her as he observed her, like he observed everyone. She was no special to him. She lifted her left hand and ran it along her ponytail. A sigh that she was curious. You have to go back to your pack. What help will it do? The heir was born to a werewolf and a witch, and according to my sources, the pack was Moonstone pack. I want you to go there, find out who the heir is and bring them here. He instructed her. She nodded slowly. What would you do to them? She asked but regretted it when she noticed his face darkened. Do as you are told to do. His tone was same, but she knew he was angry with her. She knew whoever he was trying to find will have a very bad and brutal fate.